The old Pultec Low-end Trick. Lots of people will know about it. If in case you don't, I'm going to show you in a second. And in fact, I've already done a video on it in the past where I used the UAD version as well as the original Slate Custom Series EQ, which was a very similar type of EQ. This week, Slate have released the SD-PE1, which is their official version of the Pultec. It sounds fantastic, and in this video, I'm going to take you through that famous low-end trick using this plugin, but also I'm going to take it a step further and show you what I like to do to give it a little extra punch. Okay, cue ominous sound. So what is the Pultec trick? Well, I'll tell you very, very quickly. Basically, on the plugin, on one of the frequency bands, you've got a boost and you have a cut. Now, when you boost and cut at the same time, it doesn't do it proportionately so. The boost is a bit more of a broad boost, whereas the cut has a bit more of a narrow cue, but also it affects some of the harmonics of the selected frequency, which results in a tighter sound. And what you're gonna hear is something very cool. Typically, it's often used on a kick drum. That's like the main use, I'd say. But also it can work on a snare drum, it can work on bass, and it can be quite good on guitars as well, especially heavy guitars. Yeah. In this example, I'm going to show you on a kick and a snare. And as I said, I'm going to add something a little bit extra to make it a little bit cooler. Let's see it in action. Okay, so here we are. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do it. You can insert it directly on a channel or you can run it in parallel. I like to run it in parallel, but firstly, I'll just show you it on the channel so you can just see it in action. So what I've done is I've inserted this onto my kick channel. So this is just a kick drum with the actual kick group, in fact. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to be focusing on this lower end here. So we're going around 60 hertz because that's where the chunk of the kick is. And we're going to boost at about 5, somewhere between 5 and 6, and then we're going to be attenuating around a similar amount, but what I like to do is just attenuate just a little bit more. So if you're boosting about 5, then maybe attenuate somewhere between 6 and 7. So just quickly, I'll show you that with it on and off, and then I'm going to scoot very quickly over to the parallel version. Well, as you can hear, it tightens up that low end. It gives it a little bit more extra smack, and it just does something really nice. So what I like to do is I like to run it in parallel. So what I've done is I've taken a send from that kit group. I've created an aux channel, and then I've inserted this same thing, all the same settings on that aux channel. Now, the difference you have here is you can feather it in to taste. Okay, so now I actually have a parallel version of it that I can mix in as much or as little as I want. So let's just do that so you can hear it in action, and then I'm going to show you what I like to do after that. Okay, so it sounds very similar, but I like that it keeps more of what you already had going on with the kick in the first place. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another plugin to it. I'm adding an FG Stress, which is of course the Slate version of the distressor plugin. And what I'm doing is I'm smashing it a fair amount, but I've got the slowest attack, fastest release, and we're on about 6:1 on the ratio. Now you can experiment with the detector switches here to see which one you prefer. If you have the high pass on, it means it's not going to be compressing as much of the low end. In this case, I kind of want it to compress the low end because I want to take the effect of the Pultec and just really kind of smash it and just box it in, so I've got something even more punchy. So I'll show you that on and off, and you can hear for yourself the difference that the compressor makes. It really does have some extra smack. Now, I'm going to take that same idea and apply that to the snare, but I'm going to do it at a slightly different frequency. So let's move over to the snare, and once that's working, I'll show you along with the drums so you can hear it in context, and that, to be honest, that is where the money shot is. So over on the snare, what I've done is I've got a very, very similar setting to what I had on the kick. Okay, so the boost and the cut, but this time the frequency we're looking at is around 100 hertz. That's essentially like the lowest part of the snare. We have a very, very similar setting on the FG Stress as well, but the only additional thing that I've added in here is I've brought in the FGS, which is the SSL EQ. You can actually use any EQ here because all I want from this is the filter. What I'm doing is I'm just filtering out a little bit of the low end, just going up to about 80 hertz. The idea of this is just to control some of those sub frequencies that we maybe don't need. We want that extra low end bump, but we don't want it to be too muddy. So the only other change that I've made on this is I've lowered the mix a little bit, down from 100% to, and you can experiment with this, but I've gone down to around 70% just to allow a little bit more of the transient through. So let's hear a before and after and you'll see what I mean. So there really is quite a difference there with the low end and that punch of the snare. If you are liking this video, please help me out and hit the old like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. Thank you very much. Also, if you sign up to the main list, I will send you some free stuff. You'll get an EQ cheat sheet as well as some one-shots that you can use in your mixes. Thank you. Okay, time for the money shot. Let's hear it in context with all the drums. I'm going to toggle them in and out so you can really start to hear what all that processing is adding. Here it comes. I think it's safe to say it really does add something special. And there you go. I hope you found that useful. Feel free to go and check out my original video talking about the Pultec trick. But I'm also hoping that you're enjoying this slight variation on the trick to give it that little bit extra punch. The Slate version sounds absolutely fantastic. I think they've done a really, really good job. And I think it's safe to say it was definitely worth the wait. Okay, any questions, hit me up in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.